This video is going to be about SeeSaw, which is a kind of cool sort of digital portfolio for students. I've already created a class and an account. It's super simple. They start you out with a demo student, the sample student in there, and so I've played around a little bit. When you go to post, if you click post student work, that's going to post it to the sample student. And you have these 6 options, which are pretty neat. They can draw, they can take a video. You'll notice in drawing that there's this little microphone option. After they're done with their drawing, they can record video. So they could be talking through a math problem or explaining a story if it's a young student and they've drawn a picture. They have the same feature with photo, which isn't immediately obvious there. So if a student takes a picture of their work, they can also document it with words. But I don't think those options are available for these down here, maybe for note. So those are the 6 ways that students can choose to respond to a prompt or put things in their journal. Those are the 2 big things. The student journal, they can just add to at any time, and it's kind of for them to just put in work. Activities are like the things you assign and they would respond to. So for my sample student, this is my teacher feed now. The sample student first put something in their journal. So I was just playing around. When you go into drawing, you can choose graph paper as a background, which is kind of nice. And then this one isn't a video, it's a picture with sound. And so it still says play video, but it's not going to have a visual there. And then this was in response to an assignment that I put in an activity. So here's my activity that I assigned, and I can see that there's 1 response here. If I want to put in a new activity, I go to assign activity and I have some options. The current assignment I saved is here. I can create a new activity or I can browse the community library. So there's some really cool ones in there. And my eye was immediately drawn to remote learning routines because routines are really helpful. The one that I picked earlier is down here. So we've got some in Spanish as well. Let's put in a reading one too, though. And let's just take the daily reading routine. So this is what students will see, step-by-step instructions, and it has these little icons that match up with the icons they'll see. Family-wise, explaining what the value of this is, and they also have the recording. When you make an assignment, you can put in a template that students will have and then be able to edit. So let's see what this looks like. I can immediately click assign from here. If I click heart, it'll go to my library, but I can also assign it to the class. So I'm going to assign it to my demo students, and then I'm going to view the activity in demo. Okay, if I click add response, this is what my students would do as well. They would already be logged in, so they wouldn't have to select sample student. So I'm going to put in my reading goal. I can choose what color my pen is. Okay, and then I could put in a picture, I could put in a recording. I can put in shapes, and shapes is kind of important because this is where we can get some of these objects that would be useful. I love seeing I can't remember the name of them now, but those were so fun to play with. And then I'm not actually sure what quote does. Oh, adding a voice caption. Okay. So then when they're done, they can either save it as a draft. Oh no, they can't in the free version, just kidding. So they can post it or not. The free version is pretty robust. You can have up to 100 assignments. You can have 2 teachers in the class. So if you co-teach with one other person, that would be great. The biggest thing is that when I click on here to do skills, I don't have any assessment tied to standards natively built into SeeSaw. If you have the paid version, which is $120 a year per teacher, or a school account, which they'll quote you a price, they won't even tell you what it is. If you do upgrade, you can put in your standards, and then you've got 4 categories that you can evaluate student work by, 1 to 4, for mastery level being 4. So that's interesting, and it'll give you a little heat map of all of your students, which is definitely a feature I would want. My other question about this, in addition to the like, oh, okay, one of the best features is in the paid version, is how hard is it going to be for students to navigate this? Is it going to be obvious to them what they need to do for assignments? Obvious to them when they need to post in their journal? So it's something where you're going to have a lot of training and communication. One of the things that's nice is that adding family members is pretty easy to do. They just get a code, and so they can see their students' work. Well, I'll show you how to add a class. So create a new class. You can have up to 10. You can have the option of importing from a Google class. If you have multiple grade levels, they say select other. They'll only let you select one at a time, and you'd put in your class. I should never type in these. It's always a heartache. Okay. So the same things populate here every time I have the sample student. I can add in my students and decide whether I want them to sign in with a Google account or an email address, or whether I want them to use a code. So for younger students, I would definitely pick this. The SeeSaw team suggests that you choose the one-to-one devices option unless your students are going back to the same device every single time. So even if you aren't a one-to-one classroom, unless they have an assigned computer in your classroom or an assigned iPad, one-to-one devices is going to be a better fit. And then you can either write in their names or paste in a list. It seems pretty easy. The last thing I want to talk about, okay, and so this would be the option for them. These codes, if they're designed for in-class use, only last for an hour. If you set it up for home use, they last for like 90 days, but then it's individual to each student. This allows all of the class to log in with one code. So that's a little bit weird and would take a little bit of getting used to, at least on my end. I do want to show you the settings though. Okay, so I can rename the class. I can choose what grade level. Manage teachers is what would let me add another teacher. The theme is just the color, so let's be red. And then the icon, oh, just kidding. I can choose an icon, so let's be robots. Right, so those would just be to differentiate the classes for your students when they see it on there. This is where I can adjust all these things. These are some important bits here though. Enable students' likes will allow them to like each other's work. Enable student comments, and new comments require approval. These are definitely things you want to think about in terms of your class culture and whether you want students commenting on each other's work or not. You can even turn off so they wouldn't be able to see each other's work, that it would be private. I wish this were a more granular setting, especially since this supposedly goes up through grade 12. I wish that students would have some control over that, or have the option to delegate student control where they could hide their work from someone else if they didn't want it, if they wanted it just to be between the teacher and them. But you can turn that on and off. Same here, new items require approval. So right now with that setting turned on, every time someone posts something, you have the option to approve it, send it back to the student, maybe for corrections, or to delete the post. And then if you ever want to turn your sample student off, that would be in here as well. Having family access turned on is definitely great. And then these are options related to that. You can have the option for a class blog, and you can have folders. So this would be maybe a way to have one class for at an elementary level, have maybe a folder for math, for reading, for science, etc. Okay. The skills option, like I said, is in the paid one, so that's not great. I'm not sure I would want to save everything in here to my camera roll. That would definitely be something interesting to have happen. And then you can archive the class to allow you to save the work but not have it be an active class. So that's SeeSaw at a glance. It seems like it's got some really interesting features, and it seems like you could do a lot with this one program where you're not having to have students go to multiple sites, which is nice. So I'm excited to see what you set up with it, to see an activity that you're excited to show off, whatever it is that you want to try out.